next phase of our presentation today, some of you may remember Officer Gerard. She was our former resource officer. She's now our juvenile detective. Officer Gerard will be with us. And we have Officer Austin, our current resource officer, will be taking us through this car crash scene. So give them a round of applause. And again, we appreciate them. So over to you, Officer Austin and Officer Gerard.
Good morning, Lawrence High School administrators, staff, and Cardinal seniors. If you could just give yourselves a round of applause for making it this far. Today's program is to ensure you make it through prom, through graduation, and that you get to embark on the next chapter of your lives. As Dr. Williams just mentioned, I'm Officer Austin. I'm your school resource officer. I've been a police officer for 7 years, 6 of those years here in Lawrence Township. I am not from Lawrence, but I have grown to love this community, and I've learned to love you, Cardinal seniors. All right, so this DUI, distracted driver program, is for you guys. What we are about to explain to you and what you are going to see, we really want you to take it to heart. All the first responders that will take place in the demonstration, that will be involved in the demonstration, as well as our dispatch team who is back at police headquarters. We put a lot of work into coordinating this program for you, so we'd ask that you give us your undivided attention. We do this because we care about you, your well-being, and your future. Prom season across the country is one of the most dangerous times for all motorists, particularly new drivers with provisional licenses and limited time navigating local and county roads and state highways. As a reminder, the speed limit on Princeton Pike is 25 miles per hour. For all of you seniors that go out to lunch and try to get back here on time, 25 miles per hour. Prom season runs from April to about mid-June across the country, along with New Year's Eve, Super Bowl Sunday, the 4th of July, Labor Day, and Thanksgiving. Those nights account for the most DUI-related motor vehicle crashes that result in serious bodily injury and death. Every day, about 32 people in the United States die in drunk driving crashes. That's one person every 45 minutes. If you break that down, we have 77 minutes per period for our classes, so that's roughly 2 people that die while everybody should be in class. Should be in class, all right? But in all seriousness, for the time that you are in your 77-minute period class, 2 people in the United States die from a motor vehicle crash. In 2020, 11,645 people died in alcohol-impaired driving traffic deaths, a 14% increase from 2019. That percentage and that number most likely has increased exponentially. We don't know that yet because vital statistics is a little behind because of COVID, but that number is probably a lot more in 2022, and that percentage has probably increased a lot. All these deaths were preventable. They were preventable because of what those occupants, what those drivers chose to do before they got behind the wheel of those vehicles. All right, so I'm going to run through a few prom statistics. As I mentioned, prom season runs from April to mid-June across the country. Here in this Mid-Atlantic region, it's June timeframe for us. Down south, it's a little bit earlier, but it accounts for the whole country. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, approximately 300 teens have died in alcohol-related accidents during prom weekends over the past several years. Statistics show that roughly 1/3 of alcohol-related teen traffic fatalities occur between April and June, the peak of prom and graduation season. A survey of teens aged 16 to 19, published by AAA, the American Automobile Association, in 2014, found that 31 to 41% of teens said it was likely that they or their friends would use drugs or alcohol on prom night. That was 2014. As I mentioned, vital statistics is behind. That was 8 years ago. I guarantee you that that number is probably closer to 70%, if not higher. 70% of teens most likely admitted that they would or did consume alcohol, smoke marijuana, or some type of other controlled dangerous substance on prom night. That's a very, very scary statistic. I don't know exactly how many seniors we have out here right now, but 70% of all the humans in front of me might admit that they consumed alcohol, smoked marijuana, vaped, or another controlled dangerous substance. Yeah. All right, a few more statistics. Drivers who mix alcohol and marijuana greatly increase their chance of an accident because marijuana and alcohol together have multiplicative effects on impairment. So that's uppers and downers, all right? Uppers and downers together have a very significant impact on a human being's ability to focus, okay? Take some time to look at prom statistics. Everybody has a smartphone. Just type it in your Google search, whatever search you use, and you'll see that these numbers are very high and very scary, all right? So at this time, I'm gonna start the reenactment. I'm gonna call out the responding first responders, our police, our fire, our EMS. Each will act like and execute their duties as they would at a real crash. You will see how it develops, all the manpower and resources required to perform our jobs. (243) dispatch.
243.
Exercise, exercise, exercise. Report of a collision in front of 2525 Princeton Pike. Please have officers respond. Oftentimes when officers are responding,
Report of a collision at Lawrence High School, 2525 Princeton Pike, training exercise.
oftentimes when officers are responding, they don't know exactly what to expect. We rely heavily on the information provided by the original 911 call and subsequent calls. For a crash like this that you see in front of you, the dispatchers will be overwhelmed with the number of calls from passerbys and Good Samaritans that stop and try to assist. Our dispatchers play a critical role for all first responders. To enhance our life-saving capability, dispatch must provide us with thorough and detailed information and continue to update us as they receive additional information. Dispatchers are the unsung heroes behind their monitors that assist us with triaging a crash like this one. In Lawrence Township, we average 1,300 to 1,500 reportable motor vehicle crashes per year.
During an accident like this, patrol has to be very aware of where they place their patrol vehicles. As you can see, we know we're going to be extricating people from the vehicles. So the patrol has to park a little further away, so the fire department and the EMS are going to be one of the most important people on scene here. They need room to work, to pull out their equipment.
243 dispatch exercise, receiving additional calls if we have possible entrapment. 2005, we require fire and EMS. So right now, take a look at every single vehicle that is responding to this crash. Inside the vehicles, we have 7 occupants. I'm going to give you a second to watch the response to this motor vehicle crash. This is a very chaotic scene. It is a scene that we are all too familiar with. Police are usually the first responders on scene. The first thing we do is survey the area and ensure it is safe for us to approach. We've had downed utility wires before. We've had vehicles on fire. We've had vehicles on fire with occupants still inside. When we approach, we have to make sure it's safe not only for us, but the firemen, our emergency medical teams, our paramedics, because if we can't get to them, if we're going to put ourselves in harm's way and we become a victim and we get injured, we're no good. So that's what police do when we first arrive on scene, is we make sure that it's a safe scene for everybody to come do their job. All right, so once the scene is safe, our primary mission is to render first aid. In a crash like this, our ability to do so is very limited due to the severity of the injuries. We have an ejection from the windshield, and we also have entrapment, meaning that there's an occupant stuck in the vehicle. In every LTPD vehicle, we have numerous tools that assist us with executing our duties as police officers. One of which is a first aid bag that you saw Officer Corrado first bring. Some notable items we have in our first aid bag is an oxygen tank, a bag valve mask, a cannula nose breather. All right, all those things help us do our job and try to help the firemen and help EMS before they get there and try to keep occupants alive. We also carry an AED, which is an automated external defibrillator. That is a sophisticated yet easy to use medical device that helps to reestablish an effective heart rhythm in those experiencing sudden cardiac arrest. So just take a minute, take a second to look at everything that's going on around these 2 vehicles. Police officers, firemen, EMS, all working in concert to save the 7 occupants of this vehicle. Unfortunately, we do this more than we want to. So as I mentioned, police oftentimes the first on scene. If we determine there is a spinal or neck injury, we have to keep them in place and not move them, despite how scared or uncomfortable they might be. We want to prevent paralyzing the injured occupants. As much as we want to help, we are not qualified for a serious crash like you see here. As you can see, we have all hands on deck. Police, fire, EMS, all doing what they're trained to do. Some of our firemen are qualified to render advanced first aid, which is going to be needed for an accident like this, a motor vehicle crash. As you can see, they have some of their tools out here on the grass, which includes a Halligan. That's a bar that they can use to pry open residential doors, vehicle doors, used to break glass if needed. They have heavy-duty, life-saving saws, chainsaws, the jaws of life if needed, building blocks to help stabilize the vehicle, and inflatables to help lift up a portion of the vehicle if needed to help extricate a victim out of the vehicle. All right, you can see our EMS team working on the victim in the rear of the white vehicle. Two types of EMS, basic life support and advanced life support. Basic life support, typically first to respond, and then our paramedics would respond. They have advanced life support capability. They basically have a hospital on wheels, and the difference is they can administer shots and also use instruments that cut the skin. So right now, you have both basic and advanced life support. As you can see right here, Officer Corrado has been talking to the driver of the vehicle. Trying to get an idea of what's going on. There was a bottle found in the vehicle, a cell phone. We'll collect those items and use them as evidence as needed. Right now, Officer Corrado is performing one of what we call a standardized field sobriety test. This is the HGN test. He's using his pen as a stimulus to follow the track of the driver's eyes. All right, lips lie, but eyes do not. If you have consumed alcohol, this HGN test will allow us to see the track of your eyes. And depending on what it does, we'll know if you've consumed alcohol, okay? Right now you can see the fireman using his axe and the Halligan to get the passenger side door open of the white vehicle. Oftentimes in crashes, doors get stuck. That's why we have these tools. As you can see the vehicle on the right, we had one occupant that was ejected. Fire and EMS put a blanket over that occupant, which means they are dead. So right now with a crash this serious, patrolmen respond first. Then our patrol sergeant, who was the patrol supervisor, that sergeant would then contact our lieutenant. Our lieutenant would contact our chief. Our dispatch would contact our central dispatch. EMS would contact the hospital because we have one dead occupant on the roof of a vehicle. For police supervisors, they have to shift gears and think about who is this teenager dead on the car? Where do they live? Who is their mother? Who is their father? Who is their guardian? And then our lieutenant has to determine who will go to this house once we identify the dead body, the deceased teenager, and have to tell them that their daughter or son is dead. I can tell you it is one of the hardest things that first responders have to do, is go look into a parent or guardian's eye and tell them that their son or daughter is dead. All right, bringing our attention back to Officer Corrado performing the field sobriety test. Right now, he is having the driver of the vehicle perform the walk and turn test. The standard field sobriety tests are 3 tests that test the driver's ability to multitask in their mind, to listen to instructions, to physically walk, to physically do things, all right? Right now, the instructions were to walk heel to toe. The driver's arms should be at his side. As you can see, he's using them for balance, which is an indicator that his inhibitions are gone and that he needs to use his arms for balance. Unless you have some type of injury that prevents you from walking in a straight line, if you have not consumed alcohol, most people can do this walk and turn test with no problem. So again, Officer Corrado was given instructions. This tests the ability for the driver to listen to instructions and do exactly what he is told. So back to the vehicles, you can see the firemen are busy figuring out how we can extricate or remove the victims' occupants from the vehicles. You see they took the passenger side door off of the white vehicle to allow EMS to put a board in and safely remove the occupant. Once again, if we think or believe that there's any spinal or neck injuries, we have to be very delicate in how we move them so as to not paralyze them. They already have very extensive injuries, and we don't want to make it worse than it already is. For the brown vehicle on the top, you can see that they've had to use their chainsaw to remove the roof of the vehicle to extricate the occupants of that vehicle. Officer Corrado is now administering the one-legged stand test. Once again, this tests the driver's ability to comprehend the instructions that have been given to him, as well as observe his balance and how well he can maintain that balance. He's been given instruction to hold one of his legs up for 30 seconds. Most people that have not consumed alcohol understand that 30 seconds is 30 seconds. For an occupant or driver of a vehicle that has consumed marijuana, which is a downer, it might take them 45 seconds to 60 seconds until they realize their foot is still up if they have maintained their balance for that long. For some drivers that have consumed alcohol, they may only keep their foot up for 10 to 15 seconds. So once again, it tests the ability for them to comprehend the instructions that they've been given. We get to see their balance, and all 3 tests combined will determine if that driver of the vehicle has consumed alcohol. As you can see, based on the 3 tests, Officer Corrado determined that this driver of the vehicle is driving under the influence of something. He has been placed in custody and he will go to Lawrence Township Police Department arrested for drunk driving. You will hear in the auditorium briefly from our judge the other charges that this driver will receive because of this two-car motor vehicle crash that has at least one fatality, one death, with numerous other occupants with serious bodily injury. All right, all because they decided to maybe have one or two drinks, one or two puffs of a vape, whatever. It seemed innocent at the time, but the innocence has turned into this, which is very, very serious. All right, so I'm going to hand the mic over to EMS Lopez. He's going to give you a very thorough and detailed explanation of what EMS and fire have done so far to extricate the occupants of the vehicle and what they are continuing to do.
Good morning, everybody. Can you guys hear me? What do you guys think so far? It's a lot. All right, so what we have to do when we first arrive is break down the entire situation. So, as it stands right now, at any given time in the township, there's only one ambulance, all right, available. In a scene like this, we have to call for mutual aid, and a lot of other providers to come and give us a hand. So, are you guys keeping track? How many patients? Who's watching? How many patients? 7? 5? Shout it out, what do you think? 6. 6 patients, including the one that's not going to move off that hood. Okay? The other driver, upon our arrival, is deceased. Now, when you go to EMT school, you learn it takes about 2 people to take care of one person. We work as a team. Take vital signs, get a history, talk to them, intervene if we need medically. There's 6 people here. That should be 12 EMTs. We're not going to get 12 EMTs. So we initially have to go and do a very quick triage of the scene to see what we have, who needs the most care, who is the most injured. We have to request for help as needed as well. What that means is, if you get into an accident like this, help will come eventually. The reality is, I don't mean to say this rudely, but it might come too late. You're going to have an ambulance come from Trenton or Hamilton or West Windsor, Princeton, any other surrounding town to provide services for the people who are not the most hurt, who are not the most critical. So we have one patient that we can't work on because we have 5 others that are definitely in need of our help. We have an ALS patient who lost pulses. We applied the AED, intubated her, and did compressions. We have a walking wounded driver, as you saw. He had to go through the field sobriety test. And some other patients who have basic bumps and bruises. The ones who are being removed last are either the least critical or the most trapped. We get everybody out who can get out first. If they're walking and injured, they go to the ambulance first. I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be okay. However, it brings up an interesting point. Usually the person who's the most distracting is not the most hurt, right? That person versus the young girl who was unresponsive and not screaming, who do you think is more hurt? Maybe the one who's screaming. But in reality, if her airway is pinched off and she's not breathing, if we don't notice her, all right, we're going to have 2 fatalities. So we need to act quickly, make decisions. We only have a limited ability to do so many things. We only have a couple of jump bags and a couple of providers. At that point, the fire department helps us greatly by being first responders, helping us do CPR, helping us move patients. And the other reality is this. When you get to the hospital, you might not be going to the same hospital as your friend, people that are in the car with you. All right? If somebody needs to go to a trauma center and you don't, you're getting split up. Because of COVID, the way things are now, you're not going in the same ambulance, most likely, especially the other person is very critical. So you might get sent to different areas, different regions. Someone need to go to Helene Fold or Capitol Health, Princeton, maybe even as far as St. Mary's, depends on whatever we have going on that day. You have to go to, need a helicopter to transport. It's all different things you have to factor into the scenario regarding transport times. So the cars are all pretty much cut up. In the state of New Jersey, unfortunately, we do not transport people who are deceased upon our arrival in the ambulance. If it's a witness cardiac arrest, if it's a medical call, then that's fine. But in the event of trauma, if someone upon our arrival is deceased, there's a lot of things we can't do at that point. So for us, she's going to stay right there. Everybody else will be helped as we can, as soon as we can, depending on how they're entrapped. But the reality is this: drinking and driving, vaping and driving, even texting and driving can result in something like this. It's all about reducing your risk, reducing the ability, preventing you guys from finding yourself in this situation. All right? What did you guys think of the EMTs and the firemen? They do a pretty good job? It's pretty dramatic? All right. Very good. They're starting to pack up now. How about your students, your volunteers? Give them a round of applause too? All right. So please, 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 summer starts at the beginning for you guys. Don't drive distracted. Don't drink and drive. Don't do drugs and drive. Reduce your risk, all right? Don't be part of the situation. All right, thank you very much.
All right, Cardinal Nation, at this time, we're going to have Chief Nagy come up for about 2 to 3 minutes and explain the fireman's perspective of a crash like this.
Hi guys, how's everybody doing, okay? What do you think? Pretty realistic, right? Yeah, unfortunately, this is not something that's new to us, and this is something that we see on a very frequent basis. So what we want to do is just kind of show you guys really what it takes, and this is actually relatively, small scale what we deal with. But you can see all the apparatus, all the fire trucks, all the rescue trucks here, the amount of people that it takes to what we call extricate the patients that are inside the vehicle. And it is super important that you don't put yourself in this position to begin with, because obviously it looks pretty traumatic, and it is pretty traumatic, and events like this, accidents like this, will definitely stick with you for your entire lifetime. So it's super important, not only now, not only during prom, not only during graduation, but during the course of your entire lives, when you get to college and out of college. It's super important that you don't get distracted while you're driving, that you don't drive impaired, you don't drive while you're on a substance or drinking or something along those lines. Avoid this situation, and you don't want to see us, when we come out and have to cut you out of the car. So do us a favor, do yourselves a favor, just be careful, be responsible, get a designated driver, get somebody to take you home if you're not able to drive yourselves. And above all, have a great time, have a great prom, and have a great graduation.
All right, Cardinal Seniors, we have about 5 minutes until we're going to move you from outside into the auditorium for the next phase of the presentation. But does anybody have any questions about what they witnessed right now? The response from the first responders, what Officer Corrado was doing as far as the field sobriety test to determine if Mr. Robert was impaired on some type of alcohol or drug, anything that you saw that the firemen and EMS were doing out here with the occupants of the vehicle. Any questions?
My name is Aaron. How does protocol change if the crash happens in the middle of the highway and there are cars still driving around it?
So the question is, what would happen if this crash took place maybe on Route 1 northbound in front of the mall? We are capable of handling a motor vehicle crash, but for the extent of the injuries and how many responders are coming, we most likely would call for mutual aid. We'd probably most likely, if it happened on Route 1 northbound near Quaker Bridge Mall, we'd call West Windsor Police Department to help us block the road. And as we clear the road as much as possible, we'll open up 1 lane, and then 2 lanes, and then 3 lanes. But a motor vehicle crash as serious as this one, we'd probably have that road shut down for at least 1 hour. We'd also have to wait on a tow truck, 2 tow trucks, to tow these vehicles off of the road and to open the roadway. So for a busy roadway here in Lawrence Township, we would require mutual aid as far as police and maybe even fire. This response that you see right now is the best that Lawrence has to offer. Some of these firemen are paid, some are volunteers, and this is what we do every day. This happens every day while we're here in this school. Somewhere in the township, there might not be a response this big, but every day there's motor vehicle crashes. Like I said, 1,300 to 1,500 motor vehicle crashes reportable in Lawrence every year. And you might get 1 engine, you might get 2 engines. You'll always most likely have 3 patrol vehicles that respond, and then depending on the severity of the injuries, that's when you'll see a response this big to be able to take 7 injured occupants, 6 occupants injured, and 1 dead. So any other questions before we move in?
Welcome to Operation Prom. My name is Tony Hanawakar. I'm a paramedic with Capital Health Systems. Obviously, I'm not Marion Moore. She's out sick today. She's our trauma program manager. And I have with me Stephanie Kulak, who's our injury prevention nurse and is not new to us at the hospital, but new to us in the trauma department. We're going to talk today a little bit about motor vehicle accident statistics and drunk driving. Motor vehicle crashes in the United States are the 2nd leading cause of death in the U.S. for teens. That's pretty impactful. And every year, 2,500 American teens die in motor vehicle accidents, 17 deaths from motor vehicle accidents every day in the United States. And there are certain risk factors. Teens are 3 times more likely to crash than older drivers. Male teens are twice as likely to crash than female drivers. You know why that is? I hate to tell you this, guys, but our frontal cortex doesn't mature as fast as females do. So the decision maker is right here, and we just don't make good decisions as quick as females do. New drivers 16 years and older, because they're less experienced, are more likely to have an accident. Practice makes perfect, and until you get really used to driving, it's not the greatest thing in the world. So the teens are at the highest risk for motor vehicle accidents. Some of the risk factors include night and weekend driving. A lot of teens don't like to wear seat belts, and speeding. 30% of male teens, again, guys, and 18% of female teens are killed in motor vehicle accidents just from speeding. No alcohol or drugs involved. Impaired driving, any amount of alcohol increases your risk. Just that 1 drink, 1 beer, 1 mixed drink increases your risk. Any over-the-counter drugs that you might take. You take a Benadryl because your sinuses are bothering you. You don't realize how much it impairs your judgment. And even like Claritin or Zyrtec that aren't supposed to make you drowsy can make you drowsy enough to impair your judgment. Medications that are prescribed to you like sleeping pills or opioids for pain or medications for attention deficit disorder can affect you. Marijuana, even though it's legal now, can impair your judgment. So drinking any amount of alcohol increases your risk. Like I said, one drink, and you're at that 0.8 level. So by the 2nd drink, you really shouldn't be driving. There's a lot of slides in here we're going to skip over because there's a lot of statistics that they already went over outside. Distracted driving. You know, we talk about drunk driving a lot in this, but the biggest problem we have in cars is distractions. And, you know, the biggest distractor in a car, I'll tell you, is a screaming kid strapped in a seat behind you. And we know what causes that now. We know how to prevent it, right? Stephanie has twins that are 4 years old. Nothing more distracting in the car than screaming kids. So distracted driving is just as bad as drunk driving. And we're in that age of electronics where we all have a cell phone in our hand. We're using it for GPS. We're getting text messages from our friends. We're looking up directions. We're looking to see if the restaurant's still open that we're going to. So just looking away from your point of view driving for 1 second to look at that phone is enough to cause an accident. Eating in the car, drinking in the car, having a bunch of friends who are distracting you in the car, listening to the radio or trying to change the station while you're driving, texting. If you're tired or sleepy, pull over. You know, you shouldn't be driving if you're tired. If you're angry, if you just had a fight with somebody and you jump in your car and take off, you're going to be distracted by what's going on in your head. If you're stressed out or you're upset, same thing can happen. 1 in 5 people are killed by distracted drivers, and most of them are innocent bystanders. Somebody that's on a bicycle, some little kid that crosses the street when you were looking at your phone for a second. Those innocent bystanders are the ones that pay the biggest price. But at least 39% of teens admit to texting or emailing while they're driving. I can't do that. There are a bunch of apps that you can download now. You know, like I said, we live in a scientific world. We have all this electronic ability. You can download an app to your phone so that it'll sense when you're driving so that your text messages won't beep to distract you. Let's see. We have a bunch of really gory accident pictures to show you. You know, we're in the business of trauma, and Stephanie and I love it. We've worked a lot of years. I've 27 years at the hospital now. I love the emergency room. I love trauma, but trust me, we don't need or want your business. Like I said, we love what we do, but the thing that we enjoy more is injury prevention, and that's what Stephanie does. So she's going to go through some pictures here, and like they said before, some of them are a little gory, so if you're a little squeamish, cover your eyes or walk out if it bothers you. And this is Stephanie.
Honestly, if you're squeamish, don't stand up, just put your head down. We don't want you passing out. So Lawrence was kind enough to demonstrate with fire, EMS, police, what happens before they come to the trauma center. I am going to take you through what happens when you arrive. So you guys saw a scene outside. This is very similar to that scene. Someone was ejected out of the back of the car through the back window after being hit by a semi. That force, if you are not wearing a seatbelt, is enough to eject you out the sunroof we've seen, back window, windshield. Wear your seatbelts. Seatbelts do save lives. They keep you in a stationary area. If you are ejected rather than wearing a seatbelt, you're more likely to have more injuries that could lead to death. So please, if you're driving, get in the car, wear a seatbelt. Make everyone who gets in your car wear a seatbelt, especially children. One of the things here is the person was ejected. They told you outside that in the state of New Jersey, they don't move the body right away. That body stays there. It's covered with a blanket until police officers can do accident reconstruction. At this point, this is where it stops for this person. They didn't even have the chance to get into an ambulance and make it to the hospital. This is where we work. It's right down the street on Brunswick Avenue. We are the Level 2 Trauma Center for the area of Mercer County. Usually when you come to us for a traumatic injury, such as a very bad car accident, super serious injuries, you're brought in 2 ways. A lot of the times you won't be brought in by mom or dad taking you to the ER. You're going to come in by ambulance with paramedics, or you're going to come in by helicopter. A lot of the times down 206, open areas, we have a lot of head-on collisions that are actually flown into us or flown to Cooper, just because we're close both ways. So this is actually one of our trauma bays. We do have 2. It can accommodate anywhere from 3 to 4, but we actually are expanding because the numbers of traumatic injuries are going up. So we're going to add 3, which will probably allow us 4 to 5 people in there at a time. As you saw, when that 2-car accident happened, there were 7 people in that car. Not all of them needed trauma care, but the ones that do, there was 2 to 3 that did. Each person who comes in when they are in a traumatic incident has a number of people at the bedside. You have a trauma surgeon, 2 nurses, a critical care tech, respiratory, radiology, anesthesia. There's about 7 to 15 people for one person taking care of you, trying to save your life. So initially when you do come in, you're boarded and collared, and we move you over with EMS, and they give us a rundown of what happened out on the scene. It's called a trauma timeout for us. This allows everybody to hear the entire story. You're moved to the bed. Oftentimes, if your clothes are not already cut off, we remove them. Has anybody bought a really expensive prom dress, expensive shoes, expensive shirts? This is supposed to be your night. We don't want it to end up with us. We'll cut your clothes off. We call it trauma naked. The reason we do this is to expose your body to see if there's any injuries that we missed out in the field. We can't always do it out in the field by EMS, but once you get to us, everything comes off. The first assessment that they do is your primary assessment. We call it your ABCD. It's your airway, breathing, circulation. If your airway is compromised, they're going to put a tube down your throat to help you breathe. If you are not breathing, they are going to assist you with a mask and oxygen to help you breathe. Once that happens, they will put you on a vent that will do that for us so we don't have to have somebody standing there. Circulation, if your heart stops, they did it out there. Cardiac arrest, you're going to get CPR, intubated, as well as vents and assisted ventilation. We can't move forward until we get those main three taken care of. Once that happens, we can do disabilities. A lot of times, car accidents, you end up with spinal cord injuries. Excuse me. Spinal cord injuries, we're going to check for disabilities. We're going to check your pupils. We're going to check your legs to see if you can move them. If you are paralyzed from the waist down, you may not be able to move your legs. If you're paralyzed from anywhere from C5 or down, you may not be able to move anything but your neck or be able to breathe. If you're paralyzed high enough, you will not be able to breathe on your own and you will need a breathing tube for the rest of your life. Just some basic injuries that we do see that are common. This is a seatbelt sign. It doesn't look that bad. It could be a lot worse if you're not wearing your seatbelt. That seatbelt comes across your chest and your belly. You have vital organs in your belly that can bleed a lot. Liver, spleen. This gentleman here, he looks like one of the most common people that come in for traumatic car accidents for us. He's got bruising to his eyes. He has an NG tube in his nose to empty the gastric contents of his belly so he doesn't throw up. He does not have a tube in his throat to help him breathe yet. Most likely it will get to that point because of all the swelling in the airway. He has a collar on that's protecting his neck and keeping it stabilized. This way he doesn't end up paralyzed if there is a shift. This guy also looks like he was in a little bit more traumatic accident. He does have a tube in his throat to help him breathe. He does have a seat collar on his neck. Usually those collars don't get removed until they get imaging to make sure that your spinal cord is stabilized. Sometimes they will stay or you'll have a temporary collar for a little bit. One of the things that he has that I feel is one of the most hardest things to watch if somebody is awake is a chest tube. Hollow organs pop. So your lungs, your bladder, if you have a full bladder and you get into a car accident at 85 miles an hour, that seatbelt might pop your bladder. Your chest going into the steering wheel might pop one and or both of your lungs. That is a chest tube that's placed. What they do is they cut laterally most of the time in the hospital in between your ribs. They break that cartilage to get to that thoracic space, and they'll put about a 28 to a 32-inch tube in that area to help reinflate your lung. You can have one on each side. Sometimes they could do what, 3 or 4? 3 or 4. EMS can do this out in the field. They can put a needle actually in your chest to help reinflate that lung until they can get to us and we can put one of those in. This here, this looks like a couple things. A tib-fib fracture. The toes are supposed to be up. Your feet are laying down flat. Your toes are supposed to be pointing up. Most likely, this is a downward injury from a car accident. You either go down and under or up and over. If you go up and over and you don't have your seatbelt on, you're most likely going out through the windshield. Down and under, you may have extensive leg injuries. This looks like a hip fracture, possibly a pelvic fracture, as well as an open tib-fib fracture. We do get you stabilized in the trauma bay before we move you anywhere. So they'll do chest x-rays, pelvic x-rays to make sure you're not bleeding. Then we're going to take you to our CAT scan unit and basically scan you from head to toe to see what injuries that we cannot see from the outside. This is Sue. Dr. Quinlan couldn't be here today, but Sue was a mentor / work mom to Dr. Quinlan. She retired at 65, going into her 70s. She thought that was going to be best thing. You get to see your grandkids, you get to see your family. Within 2 months of her retirement, she was hit and killed by a drunk driver trying to go see her grandchildren. So that affected him. That's why we always put her in here. We just like to talk about accidents that did happen to people, especially that we know. So the intensive care unit is usually where you're going to go when you're stabilized a little bit more. This can be an amazing area. It can also be a bittersweet, sad area. 2 things happen here. You either get rehabilitation, get better, and go to a step-down unit, or transfer it out to a recovery place similar to St. Lawrence for rehab for your injuries. Other things can happen here that are not so great. You have brain death, and one of the most important things about the ICU is you might not remember it, but your mom, your dad, the person that you love the most will remember every single thing from this ICU. They're going to be sitting at your bedside, hoping and praying that you make it through. Like Officer Austin said, one of the hardest things to do is notify a parent that they have lost a child, because that is not how it is supposed to be. So once you do make it out of our ICU, you might get pushed down to our surgical trauma unit, which is a step down prior to going to rehab. Here you might do therapy, physical therapy. Some things you might need to relearn: how to walk, how to eat, how to talk. It's not an easy recovery from a motor vehicle accident. That's just another trauma bay door. So just to put it into statistics, I think you guys have about 300 in your class, right? Give or take. So this says 400, but 1 out of 16 drivers will be in a motor vehicle accident. 6.8 of these drivers will die. It's not to say specifically to this class, but in a class of about 400 students, 67 will crash and 5 will die. Just to put it in easy numbers. This is where we don't want you to end up. The reason we come out, the reason we do this is because we want you guys to make good decisions. We want you to be smart. You are just about to start your lives. Don't end it at 17. Don't be forever 17, forever 18, over a text message, over alcohol, over any drug. We have other alternatives to that. We have ride shares, Lyft, Uber, all different kinds. And I promise you that if you call your mom, your dad, your uncle, they might be mad that you decided to partake in some drugs or alcohol, but they will come pick you up most of the time. They might be mad, but you will still be alive. So please, call home, call a friend, use a designated driver. One of the things about ride shares is, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but this is Sammy Josephson. She was a native to Robbinsville. She was murdered after getting into the wrong Uber. She thought it was her Uber. It was not. That person took her life. So her father is a huge advocate for the What's My Name movement and What's My Name Foundation. So anytime you get an Uber or a Lyft, there's now New Jersey state laws as well as other state laws that indicate asking the driver, what's my name? They have to verify who you are before you can get in their car a lot of times. So they ask for Sammy. Stop, ask, match, and inform. So we just don't want you to become a statistic. We want you to become a success story. This is not to scare you. This is just to show you reality. This can happen. Oftentimes we think when we're 17, 18, 19, this isn't going to happen to me. I'm invincible. We have that invincible mentality. This is just to bring some light to that, to make you think. And that's all I have for you.
All right, Cardinal Senior, so the next phase of this DUI distracted driver program is a mock arraignment. We have Mr. Brian Duff up here, who is going to act as a judge. We're going to have the police officers bring in Robert as if we would in our real court, and he will be arraigned. All right, so this is also a very, very powerful phase of the program.
If the officers will please bring the defendant into the courtroom. Matter of State versus Robert Kelly. Mr. Kelly, you're here for an arraignment and a detention hearing before the Lawrence Township Municipal Court. Before I read your charges, apprise you of those charges and potential penalties, I'm going to remind you that you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say in this courtroom will likely be used against you in the prosecution on these charges. Do you understand that instruction, Mr. Kelly? All right, officers, I have on a warrant 1 death by auto or vessel, first-degree charge because it occurred in a school zone. Allegation being that the operator, one Robert Kelly, was under the influence of drugs and alcohol. This is a first-degree offense, Mr. Kelly. If convicted, you face between 10 and 20 years imprisonment. There is a presumption of incarceration. That means upon conviction, you will do jail time, sir. Do you understand that charge? I understand that there were 6 passengers. Mr. Kelly, I asked you not to talk, son. I understand there were 6 passengers in your car putting aside the motor vehicle violation of having too many in your car, you have 6 charges of aggravated assault by auto. Because this accident occurred in a school zone, this will be treated as a second degree because serious bodily injury occurred. Upon conviction of each of these, you would face a 5 to 10 year term of imprisonment, and again, there would be a presumption of incarceration. The charges also indicate that there is various controlled dangerous substances found in the car, as well as some paraphernalia. There's an allegation. Those are the indictable offenses. This court in Lawrence does not have jurisdiction over those offenses because they are indictable. I'm eventually going to do a detention hearing for you. I also need to apprise you of the driving under the influence charge. You've been alleged to have been operating your vehicle under the influence, both alcohol as well as marijuana, and potentially certain other controlled dangerous substances, which will be verified by lab tests and drug recognition experts from this office. Upon conviction of DWI in Lawrence Township, if it was for alcohol, if your reading was 08 and above, you will be sentenced as an adult in that regard. If it was below 08, and because you are under 21, you are not permitted to have any alcohol in your system, son, you would carry a minimum of a 90-day loss. 08 and over, it would be the same as an adult, anywhere from 7 months to 1 year. That's the least of your concerns right now. We'll deal with that charge following disposition of the indictable offenses. Do you understand the charges against you, Mr. Kelly? Mr. Kelly, at this time, I'm required by the state of New Jersey to perform a public safety assessment. New Jersey no longer has cash bail. That means it doesn't matter how wealthy your parents may be, no amount of money is going to spring you from jail if the public safety assessment says that you are not someone who should be out on the streets pending dispositions of these indictable charges. Some of the risk factors: age at current arrest. It's my understanding you're 18 years of age. That's why you're before me and not in juvenile court. That is a risk factor that weighs against you, son. Current violent offenses, you have 7 of them. All of them committed by somebody under 20 years of age. That's additional risk factors. You have no other pending charges. You have no prior convictions. Calculating the risk factors, particularly because you were just at the Lawrence High Project Prom and Graduation program where these type of very serious issues were discussed with you, I am going to remand you. Should you obtain counsel, you'll have a right to a review of this detention hearing in 72 hours. I'm going to reiterate, you have the right to remain silent. You also have the right to counsel should you not be able to afford counsel. Do you understand those rights, Mr. Kelly? Okay. At this time, officers, I ask you to remand the defendant to the Mercer County Detention Center. Please take him away. Good morning. How are you guys? I'm Brian Duff. I'm not a real judge. I just play one on stage here and sometimes on TV. But I am a lawyer, and I've defended people like Mr. Kelly. I've also coached Mr. Kelly. I've represented people who have looked like some of the photos that you saw up there on stage today. This is the beginning of a fun month. You guys have your prom tonight at the Marion, from what I understand. For those of you going, please, it's a good time. My law partner's a part owner, so please don't ruin his place. And then we have the entire month of May, which is June, which is going to be a time for celebration for you. You graduate on the 21st, as I understand it, yes? Yes. Okay, hey, a lot of heavy topics we're talking about. Most important message is just take something away from this program, this entire program, so that we can make, even if one person makes one better decision, we don't end up like some of these photos. I live in Lawrence. I'm a parent. Some of you guys probably know me better as Nate Duff's dad. Sometimes when Mrs. Duff's mad at me, sometimes it's the mom. But Abby Duff's dad as well. I've coached a number of you guys. You guys have worked really, really hard to get to this point, to complete this chapter in your life. And I'm proud of you. I just want you to take something away from today so that the good times, such as a prom, such as graduation, such as visiting family and buddies as a result of this milestone, are good times. They don't end up being forgotten because of some bad decisions, all right? And so that's the only message I want to leave you with. All of these charges that I apprised the defendant of, they're directly from New Jersey's criminal code. On a lot of them, there's no leeway upon conviction, and particularly so with underage individuals. So Please enjoy yourselves. Have a good time. Not too much of a good time. And I do want to thank the school district, Mr. Adam, vice principals, the administration, Lawrence Township, for inviting me back. I've been doing this since you guys are probably still in like LIS. I've been doing it since 2009. And I'm just grateful to be able to talk to you guys for a few minutes. Have fun. Play it safe. All right? Thank you very much.
I went to a party, Mom. I remember what you said. You told me not to drink, Mom, so I drank soda instead. I felt really proud inside, Mom, the way you said I would. I didn't drink and drive, Mom, even though others said I should. I know I did the right thing, Mom. I know you're always right. Now the party is finally ending, Mom, and everyone's driving out of sight. As I got into my car, Mom, I knew I'd get home in one piece because of the way that you raised me, so responsible and sweet. I started to drive away, Mom, but as I pulled into the road, the other car didn't see me, Mom, and it hit me like a load. As they lay there on the pavement, Mom, I heard the policeman say, "The other guy is drunk, and now I'm the one who'll pay." I'm lying here dying, Mom. I wish you'd get here soon. How could this happen to me, Mom? My life just burst like a balloon. There's blood all around me, Mom, and most of it is mine. I heard the medic say, "Mom, I'll die in a short time." I just wanted to tell you, Mom, I swear I didn't drink. It was the others, Mom. The others didn't think. He was probably at the same party as I. The only difference is that he drank, and I will die. Why do people drink, Mom? It can ruin your whole life. I'm feeling sharp pains now, pains just like a knife. The guy who hit me is walking, Mom, and I don't think it's fair. As I'm lying here dying, and all he can do is stare. Tell my brother not to cry, Mom, and tell Dad to be brave. And when I go to heaven, put Daddy's girl on my grave. Someone should have told him, Mom, not to drink and drive. If only they had told him, Mom, I'd still be alive. My breath is getting shorter, Mom, and I'm getting very scared. Please don't cry for me, Mom. When I needed you, you were always there. I have one last question before I say goodbye. I didn't drink and drive, so why am I the one to die?
Thank you to our student actors. We appreciate you. We're almost there. Can I get a time check? What time we got? 10:21. It's not 45. Thanks, Malik. All right. So, all right. I'm going to introduce our next speaker. You know her. To know her is to love her. You got Miss D. She's going to talk to you a little bit about tonight. Once Miss D talks, Dr. Adam will tell you a little bit of procedural things in terms of the prom when you arrive, and then we will do dismissal. So, Miss D, no more than 10 minutes, Miss D.
I promise. Hey, seniors, how you doing? Woo! You made it to this space. You made it to this space. Like, can I hear a hello? Like, woo! Give me something. You're seniors. You're ready to go. Right. That's much better. Much better. Much better. Okay, so you know what Miss D does here. You've seen her. Some of you guys have spoken to me, and I'm just going to give you some just additional words of advice tonight, okay? First and foremost, congratulations. You made it through historic times. You made it through a time in our lives where you missed a majority of your high school experience. So today, you get to experience something that is a milestone in your lives. Whether you're going to prom or not, this is an opportunity for you guys to finally look in yourselves in the mirror and say, wow, I am finally in this space. And it's an amazing journey that you've all had. It's been a challenging journey for most of you, myself included. You know, COVID's done a number to all of us. But what I want you to know is you now have the opportunity to be young adults. You are now stepping out of your kid zone and becoming the young adults that you will become. And in that, what we shared with you today meant something. Whether you blew it off, whether you thought about it or not, this is something that's really important for all of you to hear. I've had conversations with seniors, and I'm really excited to hear that some of you guys are doing prom houses, some of you guys are going to the shore, some of you guys are going to the Poconos, some of you guys are going to the beach tomorrow, which I hope is tomorrow and not tonight, because you're hyped up for the day. You don't want to be driving while you're tired, and you don't want to put yourselves at a high risk situation. So, you know, he's the drug lady, and some of you guys are going to take the opportunity and choice to engage in, you know, some substance use. And what I want you to do is think about what that means to you. A lot of you aren't. A lot of you guys are not doing that, so kudos to you because you're going to go do your own thing and enjoy yourselves. Awesome. Some of you guys that are going to make a choice, it's not a right. You're not legally allowed to do it. But some of you guys are going to go out and you're going to have these parties and you're going to have these houses and things. And here's the positive that I've heard. Most of you that are going out and making that choice are using designated people in your places that you will be going. I am proud of you for that. I am so proud of you for that. Because you want to keep an eye on each other, right? You want to make sure all the people that you are with are going to be safe and okay. All right? Because what alcohol does, troops, is, you know, which I still don't understand well, because you're teenagers. But anyway, when you engage in this type of behavior and you start to drink and you get that little buzz going on and you're feeling really good and you're dancing and you're happy, what alcohol makes you think is that you got to continue drinking. That's when it gets ugly. And what I mean by ugly is you're not making good choices, even though you think you can. The classic I've ever heard was, no, Misty, like I've seen people drive drunk and they drive with one eye open. Honest to God. Story. I'm like, that's insane. You are going to kill yourself and the people in your car, and you don't want to do these things. But this is teenage mentality because as the person that was doing the information about the trauma, all right, your brains aren't developed yet up here, so you make hot mess choices and decisions only because you're young. That's just who you are. So let me add to that, if you are making the choice to do these things and you add marijuana, and the other good thing that I want to hear about is you're not engaging in other types of drug activity. You know, I have to say, this is a class that I've not had many conversations about Xanax, about Adderall, about other drugs that people use with alcohol. I will tell you right now, if Xanax is something that is of a discussion and you drink alcohol, the chances of you dying are 85 to 95%. You cannot mix drugs. But the drugs that I know you mix are alcohol and marijuana. Alcohol and marijuana combined will intensify what you are feeling at the moment. So if you are out and you are tired, and this is the other thing I want you guys to think about, is when you are out, be responsible young adults. There have been, I think, 2 or 3 fatalities in the state of New Jersey around prom time. One was in Manalapan, one was in, I think, Freehold, and there was another. I don't want to see an empty chair at graduation. None of you do. None of you do. I want to hear the stories when you come back. I want to hear the fun times you guys had when you were out and bonding with your fellow peers because you're having a good time. And the other thing that I want you to talk and think about is, ladies in this room, take care of each other. Because when you engage in substance use, remember, decision-making isn't so aye-aye. If you see a friend getting themselves in an uncomfortable situation. Okay? I want my guys in this room to take care of the beautiful women in this room. I don't want to hear about bad stories that happened. I don't want to hear about somebody being taken advantage of, if ever. Alcohol helps that. So I want you all to take care of each other tonight. Have a great time. Have a great time this weekend. Enjoy yourselves, but please think about what it means to you to have that good time. And even though you're teenagers, and I get it, man, you're going to engage in the stuff that those of you that choose to do. Make sure you take care of each other when you're drinking and somebody goes over their limit. And what's the limit look like? What's that? What's a limit look like to somebody that drank too much? Yeah, they threw their guts up, all right? That's your limit. That's your limit. Your limit is, oh my God, I had too much to drink, now I'm going to throw up, and now I'm in this space. Here's the scary part. Alcohol doesn't leave your system. Alcohol stays in your system. When you get rid of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you don't get rid of the alcohol. Do not go back and think that you're okay to drink more. Because technically when you get sick from alcohol, it's alcohol poisoning. It's your body going, yo, slow it down. And if you slow it down, you'll be okay. And that's why your DDs are important. You make sure you take care of that person who's sick. You don't leave them in a room by themselves. 2 ways that you guys at your age die from alcohol. 1, asphyxiation from your own vomit. And that means that you got sick and somebody put you in a room because they thought it was okay and they thought it was safe, but nobody's taking care of you. And remember, alcohol is a depressant drug. So if it's depressing your body and you're laying on your back, your body and your mind are not communicating, and you vomit in your sleep, you will die. So when you are sitting in a room and you're having a grand party, I don't ever want anybody to walk into a room and see their friend non-responsive. Okay? You are allowed to call for help without getting in trouble. It is a good Samaritan law. You are allowed to call and say, my friend is in trouble. Can you please get a paramedic here? I need the EMS here. You are allowed to do that. Don't be fearful of getting help for a friend. Don't ever be fearful of that. Take care of each other. That's what you're here for. This is the journey you have begun. And this journey is amazing. This diploma is the most important step of your life. Because what you do after that is all choice. This is the most important time. I want to see you guys at graduation getting crazy. I want to see you guys at project graduation having a good time. I want to see you guys be able to take care of each other. So on that note, Misty is pleading with you to make sure you take care of each other. However, I did hear that. And I'm really proud of you guys. I am proud of all of you for taking that time and planning your events. I'm proud of you. Have a great time tonight. Deck yourselves out. Look all that in a bag of chips. Have a good day.
Give Ms. D a round of applause. Thank you, Ms. D. Okay. I'm the last one. Be brief. This is it. I'm brief. I'm real brief. Think about, from the parents who are here this morning, all the adults all day long that have been here through the first couple hours this morning are for you. How about we give all these people a round of applause, thanking them for your morning. Detective Gerard, Officer Austin, been meeting with all of us for months in preparation. There's a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. A lot of things have to happen for us to put on for you today because we care about you. Bottom line, I hope you heard that today. We care about you. Regardless of what you do after school today, after high school, wherever you go, we care about you. We only want the best for you. I'll be brief because, like I said, I have one piece to add to this, and then we're going to get you going out the door, wait for Dr. Williams to dismiss you. But tonight, when you arrive to prom, I will have this with me. This is a breathalyzer test. I will have it with me. I'm showing you now because you'll see it with me. It's in that case. Officer Austin will be with me. Detective Gerard will be with me. Chief Calorio from Lawrence Township Police Department has already called down to Cinnaminson. We've set this up. If at any point we believe any of our Lawrence High School students or their guests are under the influence, this will be used, and Officer Austin, Detective Gerard, will handcuff you and take you out and take you to the Lawrence Township Police Department. You do not want, or anyone in here, or your guest, to end prom night sitting in the Lawrence Township Police Department jail. I share this with you not to scare you, to be real with you. Ms. D was real with you, I'm real with you. Just because we care about you. We want you to do the right thing, be safe, take care of one another, but know that if we have any suspicions, we will test, and if we think you are under the influence, the police will take care of the situation, and that allows everyone else in this room to have a great night. This is a good class. This is a great group of people. We look forward to the wonderful things you're going to do in life after high school because you are amazing kids. Don't make the choices that will interrupt in any way those great things you have planned for your life in the next couple of weeks. All right? We care about you. Have a great night. I'll see you at the prom. Dr. Williams will dismiss you. Thank you.